So in a previous video, I talked about the importance of the word this on text structure and purpose questions, specifically function of the underlined sentence and overall structure questions. Here I'm going to talk about that same word, this, in the context of words in context questions, because it is an equally important and frequent clue on these questions. And so in each of these examples, we're going to see the word this pointing us directly towards what needs to go in the blank. And so as I talk about in my main video on words in context questions, yes, we have the right side of the page with the answer choices, and we need to know some vocabulary, but we really want to focus our attention first on the passage, because there's always going to be at least one specific clue telling us what kind of word needs to go in the blank. And again, the word this is often just such a clue. And so this first example here says, the fossil record is often assumed to provide an unbiased account of species evolution, but some scientists blank that it is shaped as much by chance preservation as by true biological trends. This claim has led to renewed debates about how to model extinction events. And so the word this is going to be pointing back at something mentioned, usually in the previous sentence. And so we can take the word after this and basically use that as our initial approximate answer, the kind of simple basic word that we come up with to guide us when it comes to looking through the answer choices. Now, they're not going to use the exact same word, but the correct answer should be a close synonym. And so disclose, not the same thing as claim. To disclose is to reveal. To infer, that's to draw an inference, like a conclusion. That doesn't work either. Contend, yes, because a contention is like an argument, a claim, an idea that is put forth that is perhaps debatable. That's exactly what we want here. And so that's going to be our answer. Abandon, I don't think that would even be grammatical here. Abandon that. But contend is going to be the correct answer here. Now we'll look at a few more examples here, but I want to emphasize that there are actually two sort of templates involving the word this on words in context questions. One is what we just saw in the previous question, where we have this something in the sentence after the blank. The other looks like this, where we have the word this in the sentence containing the blank. So we need to look for our clue in the preceding sentence. So it says, some species of octopus collect coconut shells and use them as portable shelters, carrying the shells with them until needed for protection. This blank demonstrates a level of tool use once thought to be limited to mammals and birds. So this might be a little more challenging, because what is this referring to? It's kind of like a strategy, maybe an adaptation, something that they do. And so we look at our answer choices and we see, well, behavior. So it's a behavior, it's something that they do. A little more general word than the two that I came up with over there. There are a couple of potentially tempting trap words here. Sanctuary would connect to the word protection. Migration, you see carrying and maybe, movement, maybe that could be tempting in some way. Transformation, well, they're not transforming from one form into another. They are just collecting these shells and using them for protection. But that is the other way that we'll see the word this used as a clue. Now, just to kind of hammer the point home, we'll look at a few more examples. This one here is back to the first template where we have the word this in the sentence after the blank. So anyway, we'll read it. It says, after years of focusing exclusively on individual heroes and historical narratives, many scholars are beginning to recognize the influence of broader social movements. Some historians now operate on the blank that progress results more from collective efforts than from singular figures. This foundational belief is reshaping textbook narratives in many schools. So we need a word that means something like a foundational belief. And I'm just going to skip right to it here. So premise. A premise is basically a foundational belief. It's something that other ideas are built on top of. It's a foundation. It's something that's sort of at the bottom or at the root of some other thoughts or ideas. And so that is our correct answer. Another one, so many plant-based food producers have praised the introduction of government-backed incentives to reduce carbon emissions. Environmental groups have also blanked the policy as a necessary first step towards sustainable agriculture. This endorsement, so we're going to change it from a noun to a verb. So they have endorsed the policy. And again, that's not going to be the correct answer, but the correct answer should be a synonym for that. So condemned is the opposite. I mean, endorsed is a positive word, condemned is negative. Evaluated, that's kind of neutral. It's like they judged it. Championed, yes. Endorsed, championed, supported, all of those would go together. A couple more just to round things out. So we're back to the second template where we have the blank right after the word this. So we need to look to the previous sentence for our clue. So over several decades, this artist twisted, looped, and wove wire to create delicate suspended sculptures that challenge the line between craft and fine art. This, and I'm looking out of the corner of my eye and I see that that actually is the correct answer, but it's a technique. It's something, it's a method or a set of methods that she used. And so technique. So we're referring back to that sort of collection of, is it one technique? Is it multiple techniques? A way of doing things. And so that's going to be our answer. And then one other thing to keep in mind is that everything I've been saying about this could also apply to that, these, and those. They're words that point back at something in the previous sentence. And so here our word is going to be these, but it's going to be the same basic approach that we used in the previous question. So archaeologists have uncovered ceremonial masks, stone carvings, and painted pottery at the evacuation site, each offering insight into the culture's spiritual life. These blank suggest that ritual practices were central to the society's daily existence. So it has to refer to something plural because these is plural. Well, masks, carvings, pottery, those would be like artifacts, things that were created by humans and later found by subsequent humans. And we look at our answer choices, and even though discoveries and artifacts are not probably going to be next to each other in the, in a thesaurus, it's still what we want here, right? They discovered the artifacts. So these findings, these discoveries, these artifacts, this is just naming what they discovered or coming up with a general name for what they discovered. But it's not explanations. These are things. They're not explanations. They're not disturbances. And while they might have something to do with traditions, carvings, masks, and pottery, they're not traditions in and of themselves. So the word this and its relatives, these, those, and that, very important clues, not just on text structure and purpose questions, but also these words and context questions. So pay attention when you see these clues. They're going to lead you basically to the correct answer, provided that you have a decent grasp of the vocabulary words in the answer choices.